Welcome everybody to another episode of Chaos and Comics. My name is Chris Sarda. Find me at Chaos and Comics on Instagram and Twitter. And today we're going to talk about Department of Truth, Volume Number 1. I know a lot of you guys are ahead of me on this. I just read Volume 1. I read Issue 1 with you guys. I think I read Issue 2 also with you guys. In my tradition of trade waiting, tasting an issue or two, and then trade waiting, I did that with a Department of Truth. So as of this video, I think issues 6 and 7 are out, which, as I understand it, changed the art, which will be something that I'm definitely curious to see, because a lot of my enjoyment in this book comes from the artwork and the design. So let's talk creators first. Of course, this is by current hot writer JAMES TYNION IV. He's writing all kinds of things, including Batman and all kinds of genres, which shows that he is very resourceful as far as a writer goes, whether you like them or not. Wind, this. He's also writing Batman, like I said, and Joker. And of course, Something is Killing the Children, which is probably his most famous indie work. And obviously Batman is probably selling the best. Martin Simmonds, who has done work I've heard of, but I didn't recognize his work when I first saw this. So Dying is Easy with Joe Hill, and he also does Punk's Not Dead. I almost pulled some Punk's Not Dead out of, I was looking for Black Orchid for this video. I couldn't find it, by Dave McKean. In this book, he has a very distinct style. Punk's Not Dead was more traditional, maybe with that punk rock feeling where you're gluing letters that you cut out of a magazine out, or something like that. But this has a strong Sienkiewicz influence, with a touch of David McKean. Like I said, I was trying to look for Black Orchid to show some of that. And then Aditya Bidkar is the letterer, so he letters a whole bunch of stuff, especially the White Noise guys, so Rom V and John Waters and whatnot. I do want to point out Dylan Todd, and as often happens with the designers, which I really like. I like when a comic has good design. I want to be, at least in my head, I try to make sure that I'm enjoying the comic visually as much as I am plot-wise. We tend to really lean on writers and then dislike a book when we don't like the art. And then if we like the art, if the story's bad, then it doesn't really even out. So I try to think of art too. But the design is Dylan Todd, and it's sort of hard to know where the design, is this design or is this Martin Simmonds? So where the design begins and where the art starts or ends, or however you want to say it. So I really enjoyed the design of this book. Often with Tynion books, and this one's not that different, they don't read great in trade, to be honest. I mean, story-wise they do, but he builds a lot of splash pages that go across that are 2 pages essentially. It's not as bad in this book, but I'm also reading his Something is Killing the Children, and that has a ton of them where the panels go all the way across, and we'll see some examples of this of that here. So there's the right amount of talking, I should say, because the book, of course, is very focused on conspiracy theories and sort of their place in society today. I know John's comic with kids, when he read the first issue, he was just so tired of conspiracy theories in general, from his own personal life, that he didn't really want to dip his toe into it. But for the most part, I think that maybe he was too tired. But for the most part, I think this book is for that person that is maybe uneased by all the conspiracy theories. I know when the first issue came out, people were confused a little bit because they know Tynion as a pretty liberal writer, especially if you follow his Twitter. But it seemed like he was saying these conspiracies are real, despite sort of making fun of the kind of person that would do it. So the first issue, I think, is does what most Image and indie first issues do. It was very much like the solicit or any kind of summary someone would give, plus a big cliffhanger. I should say there'll be spoilers here because I'm just going to flip through this book. And I think one of the reasons that I enjoyed reading this so much, and this is probably my personal favorite Tynion work, is that each issue was very distinct, and that's almost a blow on the concept of me buying this in trade, because so often the reason I've switched a lot to trades is because things are written in 5-issue or 6-issue arcs now. Where this definitely is a 6-issue arc, definitely is connecting, but I was able to see or get a different feeling from each individual issue. They felt very distinct to me, rather than them being one long narrative with certain cliffhangers every 22 pages or whatnot. I really love the art here. This is this style of art. I felt the same way with Blue and Green by Rom V. And Jason Sean Alexander has not exactly this style. I think this is a little bit more influenced by Sienkiewicz, but the watercolorish style. I think, though, that sometimes it can make the narrative feel cold, and that's not a good thing or a bad thing. It just means that it takes a little bit longer to really get into it. This is the kind of book, though, where it works perfect to me. This kind of art with almost photorealistic, but at the same time with all of its embellishments, and we'll see a little bit later where it can almost get cartoony despite having a realism at some points. So this book does get right to the nitty gritty as far as there's conspiracies, there's people that believe them. This is a flat Earth society sort of thing where they believe that there's just a giant ice wall that goes up into, I don't know, infinity or something. And that happened in this ending to issue number 1, or near ending to issue number 1, set people apart. I remember saying, and I only had read the first issue, saying this is probably Jackie Onassis, and I'm still not sure that it is, but we'll see a picture down the road where it possibly is. And then the big hook, of course, being that the head of the Department of Truth, the people that are responsible for making sure that these conspiracies don't get believed enough that they become true. That's the world we live in this book, that when people start believing, then history actually changes, and we become in danger of these crazy conspiracies being true. And the second issue is distinct. It does build on number 1. But Tynion takes the opportunity to, so there's a heavy Sienkiewicz influence here, right? I mean, even to the point where it looks like he has Legion's flat top. So mostly Sienkiewicz has done a lot, but mostly when people think of his high art style, it was that New Mutants run with Demon Bear. And Dave McKean, of course, did all the Sandman covers. He did a book with Neil Gaiman. It's called like Violent Thoughts, I think. I don't think I own that. Did Black Orchid, like I mentioned. And he has a photorealistic, weird sort of painting style like this. Most of those Sandman covers were actual like models that he took a picture of and then would embellish artistically. So we go right into, I mean, that's, who knows? So this, this delves into the whole conspiracy thing because, our character that we're learning about it through, Cole here, is also learning about it. And then we get sort of a picture into his past and how it links to the conspiracies. And it touches a lot on the satanic panic in the 80s, which is all true, by the way. If you play D&D, you are evil. This character's great. I hope it is Jackie Onassis, and really breaks down. There's a clear emotional break here, which I think is going to be important later. Issue 3 is almost a one shot. So our protagonist, where we're learning about this new reality, is definitely in it. So it's just beautiful design. I wanted to show this one too, the Reagan one here. So if that's Dylan Todd, I mean, he's doing great, but it's hard to know who's doing the art, which way are they, is this the design or is the cover Martin Simmonds, right? But who knows? So this is probably, when you're going to read something about conspiracies or whatnot, there's always going to be this uneasiness. You're going to understand that some of it's going to be off-putting to a certain degree. And in the first 2 issues, you got the introduction of the concept, and then you fleshed out the main character Cole a little bit. And while Cole is in issue 3, this is probably the most off-putting issue to me, even more than 4 when we get to it, because it deals with the conspiracies involving Sandy Hook. This is artistic version of Alex Jones, of course, if you can't tell, where he really got his fame was either when he was yelling 1776 on CNN, or a little bit after that, or actually it was around the same time, right? Or is when he decided to start saying that Sandy Hook was a false flag kind of thing. He's a little bit crazy if you didn't know. So the art style continues. I keep repeating that because I know that in issues 6 and 7 that we're going to get a right turn. So contrasting that's going to be very important when I come back around to review and talk about volume 2, because it just works so beautifully here. And not only so it's the same kind of art, of course, but because this almost serves as a one shot, we get a lot more splash pages, or splash pages aren't even the right word, right? More pinup style. This is a beautiful way to show movement and light, and still get panel to panel, and it doesn't necessarily, the camera's a little bit closer. So I really enjoyed this issue from an art perspective, and I enjoyed it from its plot perspective too. What's generally happened, you see more sort of pinups, a lot of narrative here. What happens here is that one of the women whose child died at Sandy Hook starts getting caught up in the conspiracies, and then starts believing that her son is actually alive. She wanted to grab onto that last bit of hope, and the book does do a lot of sequential storytelling, but like I said, you get a lot of pinups like this. Like this would be a lot nicer to look at if I had issue number 3, right? But I'll live with it. This Department of Truth number 1 cost me, I pre-ordered it, it cost me a whole $6.50. So it's $9.99 regular, which is already a great deal. And then pre-ordering it online was 35% off, was $6.50. So it's great. It was, I'll live with this, So this issue doubles as, showing a specific instance, and a very off-putting, uneasy instance, because it deals with Sandy Hook. All the conspiracies that James Tynion could have framed this issue was, he chose Sandy Hook probably for a reason. And I would have to admit that it did make me a little off-putting, especially as I start to realize what she's what's happening to her. Like she's a victim, like her son was, and then you get all these, you start seeing her slowly change over. And then the reason it's a one-shot, you also get to see what the Department of Truth does in action. So it's framed under one particular conspiracy. It's the field work. It's this first field work that Cole gets into. They have to, do something to make sure that this mother doesn't have the proof that she believes she has, and then she gets to feel, look at that, that's so beautiful. Then she gets to feel this certain emptiness when she realizes that a government agency came into and stole her evidence. She goes onto the message board to start typing it, realizes how crazy she looks, and at some point, very emotional art here, at some point realizes that she's not going to see her son, even though she believes he's alive, and no one's going to believe her because she has no proof, and basically deletes it off the message board. So the book does a few things. There's the uneasiness of doing something with Sandy Hook, of course, but it also pulls at a strong emotional string, and sort of at the same time that it's framing and moving the plot along, it's able to slowly evolve and show how some of these kind of conspiracies can grab on and latch on to people. Even someone like this, like there's some last bit of hope that this mother had, that her son was actually alive, and she gets caught up in it. And then it mixes into, so that's a reality, even in our reality, and then it mixes into the premise of the entire story. This is issue number 3 here. So long as, and when I say that it made me feel uneasy or off-putting, that wasn't like a negative review of it. It has a chance to be my favorite issue of a individual comic that I've read, I think, because it buttons up real well, it connects, and it's its own thing. And then issue 4 and 5, now you get into the meat of the plot, sort of the confusion that we're going to get going forward. And I can say that I am not confused by the plot. It's not like it's one of the new Tom King books where the time's jumping all the time, and I enjoy it, but I'm not sure exactly where I am. I know what's happening, but I'm confused emotionally as a reader. So I'm going to go right into the cliffhanger. He gets back in issue number 4. So he gets back and starts getting things explained to him by Lee Harvey Oswald, who is the de facto leader. You get some more background on some conspiracies. This is when I read this yesterday or whatever. This is what I thought. Made me think of that's Jackie Onassis, because she's obviously right next to Kennedy. So who knows about that? That's not a plot point. This is Lee Harvey Oswald and Cole talking or here, and then this is just some artwork. So it's not so much the sequential storytelling, but it's it's a splash page in itself. So what ends up happening is some reporters know, and they know that the people are listening in the next room. And they task Cole, the new guy, with needing to kill these reporters, because it's really the only way that these stories and these theories can't get out, because then they start manifesting as reality, and then reality and the way we understand things changes. So sometimes it's as simple as in issue 3, you just steal the tapes or steal the evidence. And in other times, according to Lee Harvey Oswald, you need to actually kill these people. And that is what happens. Cole actually kills these 2 reporters that are given evidence and that are in danger of making some of these very dangerous conspiracy theories a reality. And this moment is actually pretty big, where issue number 3 I enjoyed as an individual issue, that's still connected to issue 2 and issue 4. This changes when you have Cole actually kill these people in what appears to be cold blood. There's no dead body on this page, but issue number 5 didn't imply that didn't happen. When he actually kills these people, and Cole being the protagonist, it changes the relationship with the protagonist and the reader, right? At first, he was just going to be what looked like a government agent, and there's this premise that these conspiracy theories can turn real. When we read issue 3, it was almost a Men in Black type thing. They had to steal a tape or something, and there was pain involved with the mother, but there wasn't an actual cold-blooded murder. Now you have this here, and it's very clear that these reporters are not guilty. They're only guilty of being reporters. They have information, and they were deciding whether to go public. They even decide not to be honest. And then for whatever reason, they know that the Department of Truth is in the next room, and they go just to get the truth, just to understand it, and they need to die. This is Lee Harvey Oswald here, apparently being okay with it. So when I read this, it's like, okay, this book is changing, right? This book is not what it purported to be in the first 3 issues, or it's at least our relationship to Cole here is not what it was supposed to be. And issue 5, I won't get into too much detail. Still continue with the beautiful art, but this is where we get the possible confusion and what really becomes a hook as a trade reader. This becomes a hook to me to continue to read it, because after I read this, I'm not sure who's good, who's bad. I'm not sure if Cole's a victim. I'm not sure if Cole's going to go down something of a, I guess Tony Soprano was bad from the beginning, but I forget the name of the story where he becomes a drug dealer. He's a meth dealer, and then eventually he just becomes evil. At first he starts selling meth, because he's poor or whatever. I can't believe I can't remember the name of that show. But anyway, this is where you start to get the other side of the story, and it's off-putting because you're never sure what is actually true. I remember getting that feeling in a good way that made me more interested in Mind Management by Matt Kindt. This feels a bit more serious, obviously, probably because the art is a lot less cartoony, and we've gotten some explicit, I guess Mind Management had some explicit violence too, but we've gotten some very explicit violence. And hey, it hooked well, especially, her reds in this always stick out. Like they don't use such bright reds. And so whenever she appears on the page, you always see her. So whether she's Jackie Onassis or a figment of our imagination, beautiful imagery. I should mention that something that is the design from Dylan Todd, the panels are done as if they're taped to a wall, right? So it's like the standard paneling across the board here. So I really enjoyed this book. I would recommend it. It feels like people had mixed reviews, but I think that's a symptom of us reading it week to week and staring it down and whatnot. I am a little disappointed that we didn't get a cover gallery, because there are actually some pretty cool covers in there. So, it ends and then you just get an ad for his Tiny Onion thing. But other than that, I really enjoyed it. I'm very curious to see not what happens, right? Of course I am. That's why I'm buying it. But what I really want to feel out is what I know to be a change in the art style, and to contrast that with what we got here. Because any change in the art style will change the whole mood of the book, which I'm accepting of. I'm going to go along for the ride and see what that means or why it's done. I don't know if it's done for just aesthetic reasons. I don't know if Martin Simmons just didn't want to do art like that anymore. If it's done for plot reasons, that's even better. I hope that's what it's for. Anyway, guys, thank you guys for watching. My name is Chris Sarda at Chaos and Comics, Instagram and Twitter. I will see you guys